The deep dive is back, and you handed us a truly monumental task,
Oh, yes.
charting the entire architecture of ancient Buddhist thought. We are diving deep into the suttas and nikayas.
The earliest collections, yeah.
I mean, these are the original blueprints.
They are massive. We're talking about source collections that, form the foundation of literally all subsequent philosophy.
Right.
Think of the Sayutta Nikaya. It has well over 1,000 discourses. It's a doctrinal powerhouse.
And then you have something like the Suttanipata.
Much older, often very poetic, full of context. So our mission today is, well, simple in theory,
In theory.
to extract the core, timeless operating system, that universal blueprint for knowledge and practice that you find across every single one of these teachings.
And what's crucial for you to know, the learner, is how these texts were put together in the first place. I mean, you might assume they were just sort of thrown together.
But they weren't. Not at all.
They had a very specific goal.
They did. Our sources show that the people who compiled these pikas, these huge baskets of doctrine, organized them strategically.
How so?
Well, they knew different communities, different students,
Huh.
would memorize different sections. So they had to guarantee that the absolute fundamentals...
Like the Four Noble Truths.
Exactly. They made sure those weren't just hidden away in one book. They were explicitly, directly repeated across every major collection.
It was a redundancy by design.
It was. It ensured no student could miss the core knowledge needed for liberation.
That makes perfect sense. It's like quality control for enlightenment. So even if you only studied the Book of Fives, you still get the whole doctrine.
You get the blueprint.
And what we found here is not just doctrine. We're going to discover the foundational theory of self and suffering, the practical steps to freedom, and some really surprising social context.
From ancient arguments over agricultural ethics to...
The cosmic consequences of your lunch money. Okay, so let's unpack this. Why are we suffering in the first place? So the entire system kicks off with this single kind of devastating premise.
Right.
We suffer because we fundamentally misunderstand who we are or what we are.
Exactly. When you look across the suttas, that identity we cling to, it gets systematically disassembled.
Into the 5 grasping aggregates.
Yes. Form, which is our body.
Feeling, perception, choices, or volitional formations.
And consciousness. But that word, grasping, is everything.
Why that word specifically?
Because the texts are relentlessly clear on this. These 5 components are universally impermanent, they're linked to suffering, and they are perishable.
So the problem isn't having a body or feelings.
No, the delusion is claiming them. When a person looks at any of these unstable things and thinks mine, or I am this, or this is myself,
That's the moment of grasping.
that is the precise moment sorrow, lamentation, and all this distress are born.
So the aggregates themselves they're neutral until we attach an identity to them. That grasping is the core problem then.
It is. The texts teach that grasping is the direct cause of continued existence.
Which just sets you up immediately for the suffering of old age, sickness, and death.
Right. So if you stop the grasping...
You stop the suffering. It's an elegant, almost terrifying logic.
And if we dig one layer deeper, what fuels that grasping? Ignorance.
But ignorance isn't just, not knowing stuff.
No, it's a deep misapprehension of reality. It's the fuel for the craving that leads to continued existence. Think of it like a dark pool where the desire for more life just keeps bubbling up.
I worry that for the learner, we're dropping too much jargon too quickly. Ignorance, craving, grasping, it can sound overwhelming.
Sure.
Let's talk about what keeps us ignorant, because the texts are really specific here. The 5 hindrances.
Yes.
How do we understand these 5? Sensual desire, ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, and doubt.
Think of them as the psychological friction that stops you from seeing clearly. They're the immediate obstacles in your mind right now.
The day-to-day static.
Exactly. Sensual desire is that craving for immediate pleasure. Ill will is holding a grudge. Dullness is that mental fog. Restlessness is anxiety. And doubt is that little voice saying, this will never work.
They're the 5 ways we stay distracted and ignorant.
And the most immediate, tangible thing that feeds all this? Contact.
Right. The suttas say the origin of all feeling pleasant, painful, or neutral is contact. Can you walk us through that?
Certainly. Contact is defined as the meeting of 3 things at the same time. A sense organ, like the eye.
An object, so a sight.
And the resulting consciousness, eye consciousness. That meeting is contact. And contact immediately gives rise to feeling.
And if the sight is pleasant, we crave it, and grasping begins.
Or if it's unpleasant, we react with ill will. The whole cycle just spirals out from that one single moment of sensory contact.
So understanding that all these components, from form all the way down to consciousness, are suffering, that allows for an escape.
It's the only way out.
The ultimate goal, then, is realizing the full extent of the gratification, the drawback, and the escape of these 5 aggregates.
And the result of that is freedom.
Mm.
But freedom from what?
Exactly. The texts call it freedom from this world. And that's a surprisingly vast concept. It includes everything from the lowest hells up to the highest divine planes.
The mendicant who achieves this is said to live completely detached,
Hmm.
liberated.
That is a huge claim, escaping a world of gods, maras, and divinities. How powerful is that realization supposed to feel?
It's described in really visceral, permanent terms. There's this memorable image from the texts.
I know the one you mean.
The realization of freedom is compared to the mendicant shedding the near shore and the far.
As a serpent, its old, worn-out skin.
That's the one. It's not a slow change. It's a total, clean, and irreversible letting go of that old identity.
Yeah.
So if the aggregates define the philosophical problem, we need a practical, step-by-step solution.
And this is where the Noble Eightfold Path comes in.
This is the practice. This is what directly leads to the end of suffering. And what's fascinating is that the path isn't a buffet, you know.
You can't just pick and choose.
No, it's a progressive training regimen. And it culminates in the complete removal of greed, hate, and delusion.
And you can see the logic of the sequence perfectly laid out. It starts with the intellectual and ethical foundation.
And moves to conduct, then to mental cultivation.
You start with right view, understanding the 4 noble truths. That informs right thought.
Which leads directly into ethical living.
Right speech, right action, right livelihood. Only once that ethical foundation is solid do you move inward.
To right effort, right mindfulness, and finally right immersion. It's an architectural plan for the mind. You can't achieve deep focus if you're actively engaged in, say, harmful speech.
The 2 parts feed each other.
Let's zero in on the key mental training factors because this is where the rubber meets the road.
Right. Mindfulness, or sati, how do the earliest texts say to practice that?
Mindfulness is about meditating in retreat and observing 4 specific foundations: the body, feelings, mind, and principles, or dharmas.
And the goal?
The practitioner has to be keen, aware, and mindful. But specifically, rid of covetousness and displeasure for the world. You're training your attention to stay non-reactive in the present moment.
And they provide incredibly specific tools for this, which is amazing. For texts this old, you don't just be mindful.
No, you start with the most basic, continuous physical function you have.
Your breath.
Exactly. The foundational practice is mindfulness of breathing. The texts instruct you to track your breathing, in or out, heavy or light,
Experiencing the whole body.
and consciously learning how to still physical processes just through attention. Alongside this is awareness of postures, knowing precisely when you're walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. It just anchors the mind to reality.
And once that groundwork is laid, it leads to right immersion or samadhi.
Right, which is characterized by the jhanas, the 4 absorptions.
How should we picture this refinement of consciousness?
Think of it like tuning a radio to an increasingly fine frequency. The first absorption is ecstatic. It's full of rapture and bliss, born of seclusion, but you're still actively thinking.
But as you progress,
Those coarser mental factors get dropped. By the 4th absorption, you've given up pleasure and pain entirely. You're just in a state of pure equanimity and mindfulness.
it's a state free of suffering, but still dependent on concentration.
And beyond that.
You mentioned these formless dimensions, like infinite consciousness or the dimension of nothingness. That sounds like a journey through space, not mind.
It's a journey through the potential limits of mental experience. These are the formless dimensions, beyond even the 4th jhana. But the ultimate stage is the cessation of perception and feeling.
A state where the mind is completely inactive in terms of sensory input.
That's it.
So that distinction is crucial. If someone emerges from that state, are they actively thinking, okay, time to emerge?
No, and this is a key insight into the training. The texts say a person emerging from cessation does not think, I will emerge.
So how does it happen?
Their mind has been previously developed to achieve and then release itself from that state. It's like automated liberation, achieved through immense conditioning.
That just illustrates the huge transformative power of this practice. Developing the Eightfold Path literally alters the foundational structure of your being.
It does.
The texts use this fantastic analogy, saying that cultivating the path causes the mind to slant, slope, and incline to extinguishment.
Just as the great Ganges River naturally slants toward the east.
You've changed its natural direction. Okay, so if the path alters your destiny, we have to look at how that training translates into ethical conduct in the real world.
Yes, and we see a highly structured framework for karma and rebirth in these sources.
Karma, or intentional deeds, is accumulated.
And the texts are firm on this. It is not eliminated without being experienced, whether that consequence shows up in this life, the next one, or even later.
So bad conduct leads to rebirth in a place of loss.
Hell, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm. Good conduct leads to a heavenly realm. There is no escaping the consequence of intention.
That personal responsibility is so powerfully visualized in the system of the four people of destiny. This isn't just about rich versus poor, is it?
Not at all. It's about the complex interplay between the circumstances you inherit and the choices you make now.
Okay, so you can be dark bound for darkness.
Meaning you have a difficult life, low family status maybe, and you consistently choose bad deeds. But the system is fluid. You can also be dark bound for light.
So born into difficult circumstances, but you choose good deeds.
And that changes your entire trajectory. Conversely, you have someone who is light bound for darkness, born privileged, beautiful, but uses that privilege for bad deeds.
So the message is, your current status is fleeting.
Intentional action is destiny.
This ethical framework was applied directly to real-world issues of the time. One surprising detail that jumped out at me was the controversy over the cow and sacrifice.
Ah, yes. A very practical ethical debate.
Tell us about it.
Well, the Indo-Aryans were historically pastoralists. They revered cows, even calling them adya, not to be killed.
Yet, deep-seated Vedic traditions involved these elaborate, harmful animal sacrifices.
Including cows. The Brahmatatamaka Sutta directly challenges that contradiction. It makes a strong ethical case against cow sacrifice, essentially rooting a principle of non-harm in the land's original respect for agricultural life.
It's a profound move to reform religious ethics from within.
And for the layperson, generosity is highly valued, but it also has rules.
Giving accrues merit, but the sources are specific about the appropriate object of an oblation.
Right. Merit is maximized when it is given to those who are truly worthy, meaning those who are freed of greed and anger, who have given up rebirth.
You're investing your generosity in the highest ethical ground.
And for the noble disciple trying to make their way in the world, the texts even outline 5 positive reasons to get rich.
Which are?
For your own enjoyment, for supporting your dependents, for overcoming losses, for religious donations, and critically, for supporting practitioners, the very people who are the best field of merit.
That gives great context to wealth creation. It has to be ethically grounded.
And serve the larger community. And within the monastic world, that ethical purity is enforced rigorously.
The saga.
The monastic community, yes. It holds itself to the absolute highest standard. It doesn't accommodate the unethical. It quickly gathers and expels them.
And the imagery for this is so striking.
It is. It's described as like the ocean doesn't accommodate a carcass. The emphasis is on maintaining the purity of the environment for those who are truly committed.
And harmony within that environment is promoted through constant kindness.
Absolutely. The sources list qualities for community harmony, like treating spiritual companions with bodily, verbal, and mental kindness, and sharing everything.
And even the food in your alms bowl.
But kindness doesn't equal softness. There's a fantastic anecdote where the Buddha dismissed 500 mendicants.
Why?
They were making a dreadful racket, socializing loudly. And he compared their behavior, rather sharply, to fishermen hauling in a catch.
Ouch.
They were distracting others from the main task. The lesson is that sometimes, discipline requires a swift, clear separation.
Okay, shifting focus back to practical cultivation for those of us not in the monastic life. The texts provide clear routines for purifying the mind.
Yes, notably by observing the Sabbath of the Noble Ones.
What does that involve?
It's a practice designed specifically to cleanse a corrupt mind. It centers on 3 recollections. Recollecting the virtuous qualities of the Buddha, the teaching, or Dhamma, and the community, the Sangha.
And what happens when you do that?
When you recollect these holy qualities, your mind becomes clear, great joy arises, and the mental corruptions, those 5 hindrances we mentioned, they're just given up.
And the sources assign incredible value to this, placing it far above material power.
Far above. They say that ruling 16 great countries wouldn't be worth a 16th part of the happiness you get from this.
Why 16 great countries? What does that signify?
In that ancient context, the 16 great countries represented the ultimate measure of secular, political, and material power.
So the text is making a direct value comparison.
A very direct one. The peace and freedom gained by just a few moments of mental purification far outweigh the fleeting, troublesome power of absolute worldly control.
That really drives home the priorities of the doctrine. And for navigating daily interpersonal messiness, the texts even provide a detailed mental strategy for getting rid of resentment.
Yes, the 9 specific ways to get rid of resentment. They're basically exercises in rational detachment.
So if someone harms you,
The first step is rational acceptance, thinking, they harmed me, but what can I possibly do about it now? Other ways include focusing on the benefit of releasing that resentment, or just recognizing that the person who harmed you is also subject to their own suffering.
it's a tool set for emotional hygiene.
And no discussion of emotional cultivation would be complete without talking about metta.
The heart's released by love.
Exactly. And the tangible benefits they promise are quite something.
Like what?
Cultivating metta, unconditional loving kindness, yields 11 concrete benefits.
Yeah.
Some are physical, like sleeping and waking at ease. Others are more spiritual, being loved by humans and non-humans, being protected by deities. The texts even quantify the cumulative power of it.
How so?
Developing metta for 7 years can result in not returning to this world for 7 eons of expansion and contraction. It shows that kindness isn't just an emotion, it's an immense cosmological force.
Before we wrap up, let's just revisit a moment of social commentary from the texts. It reveals a lot about the complexity of social expectations back then.
Ah, yes, the 5 powers of a female.
It's a surprising list to read today.
It is a clear reflection of the social values of the era. The powers are attractiveness, wealth, relatives, children, and finally.
Ethical behavior.
And the sources are very quick to clarify that while the first 4 might give you temporary status, a female without ethical behavior is considered incomplete.
So it prioritizes moral conduct over all temporary external trappings.
Always.
And to close the circle on impermanence, we have to remember the wisdom of the former courtesan Ambapali.
A powerful example. Ambapali became a follower, and she used her poetic training to create these verses, describing the inevitable fading of her own body.
From beautiful skin like polished gold to
And being covered with wrinkles, her teeth brittle, hair gray. She used this physical, visible deterioration as a direct confirmation of the truth of impermanence.
she concluded that her body, in all its undeniable changes,
Was her personal witness to the truth.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate practical application of the doctrine right there. Hashtag outro.
So we have dissected the architecture of suffering in the 5 grasping aggregates. We've charted the logical, progressive blueprint for freedom in the Noble Eightfold Path.
And we've seen how ethical conduct translates into both social harmony and cosmic consequences.
The material is ancient, but the distillation of its purpose is just crystal clear.
And I think the central unifying thread across all these sources is the absolute importance of the rational application of mind. The texts consistently identify this rational, intelligent effort to internalize and apply the teachings as highly beneficial, while irrational, sloppy application is harmful,
It's a demand for intellectual rigor.
alongside emotional and ethical cultivation, yes.
And, as we noted, the ultimate goal of freedom is often described as escaping this world with its gods, maras, and divinities.
Right.
Yet we also learned that acts of virtue and developed metta can lead to rebirth among the very gods who inhabit the highest heavens.
Sometimes even the gods who control what is imagined by others.
So if the path is about escaping suffering, it requires understanding the limitless complexity of the cosmos itself, a complexity where existence is stratified and even a heavenly reward is temporary.
The critical thinking and ethical conduct the suttas demand have to navigate not only this life, but also the intricate structures of reality beyond it.
Which leaves one question. What next step of investigation will you take to truly explore those intricate cosmic possibilities?